Here we are, and welcome back, modders. What is a modder? What is a modder? In our last video, we looked at creating the terrain and how to manipulate it. So I'm going to head back in there to show you what I've done. So here's something that I've started creating. Now we're going to be looking into actually bringing this thing to life. So I've showed you enough in the last video that you should be able to craft something like this yourself. This really didn't take a lot of effort, but now when it comes to spawning in the player, let's go ahead and hit play and you see what happens. Alright, so the player spawns somewhere in like the center of all of this. Looks like the corner is right there and the starting is all the way over there. So we're going to dive into a little bit of the coding per se, where we're going to make the player spawn or start at our starting area that we designed. Let's take a look at how that's done right after these messages.
This just in, man covers road with peanut butter. When asked why, he says it was to go with the traffic jam. Back to you, Leighton.
I thought you might like that. Now if you didn't laugh, you still have time to spare my feelings. So go ahead and laugh, because you're a good person. Now, we are back here at the start where we do want the player to spawn. So, what we're going to do is head back to the cloud here, where we can find all these cool objects, including all the ones that I've decorated the scene with. Now in the top here, we have scene, actors, and we have resources. This is where we're gonna go to actually create something that gives our game some functionality, aka the coding part, okay? So what we wanna create is an action to take place when the game starts. We're gonna click the plus button right here. Once we're inside of the resource tab, click the plus button right here. And we're going to say create an action. With that, this new action pops up, and over here we can give it a name. Guys, it's important to name your actions based on exactly what they do. This one is going to make sure the player spawns at this location when the game starts. So I will give this a name, player spawner, and press enter. You can see right here, now it's called player spawner. There's going to be a trigger, what triggers it, and the action of what it does. You can see that this way of coding is pretty simple. There is a trigger of what triggers it, and an action of what is supposed to happen. So in this trigger, I'll be looking for something like when the game starts, and then here I'll kind of say move the player to a certain location. Makes sense, right? Let's click on the plus button in the trigger. And let's find something like when the game starts. I'm going to choose the one that says join. That is what happens when the player joins in the game. So the trigger is when the player joins the game. The action now will be spawn player 2, right? And then a tag. What is that tag? Spawn player 2, and then it wants to spawn tag. What is that? Well, the spawn tag is the tag of the spawner. Basically, every object that you drag into your scene, notice that they all have a tag. There's also one called a spawner. So this one here is the spawner. So here's the spawner, and I've given it this tag right here that's called player here, all lowercase. So this spawner has the tag player here. So now back to my action, right? Back to my little action, and it says when join, spawn the player at the spawner tagged player here. You see how simple that is? And if that doesn't make sense, let me run it by you one more time. I've created an object. I've got a little spawner here. This spawner has a tag right here. Player here, that's the tag. In my action says the trigger will be whenever we join the game. The action for that trigger is to spawn player to the spawn tag. Basically the spawner object with the tag player here. Alright, let's see if it works. We're gonna hit play and see what happens. And ta-da! Now I'm started at the right spot. Oh, well, I'd like to give you a quick little test here. Why is it that every time I press play, my player does spawn but he's facing the wrong direction? How would you fix that? Before I show you the answer, go ahead and give it your shot. Pause this video if you need to pause this video. Give it a try, see if we can fix that problem before watching and going any further. Now, if you did it, great job, but if you didn't, then I am still proud that you gave it a shot. Let me show you how you would fix this. So I'll go back into my editor, and of course where we'd go is to the spawner. If you look at the spawner real quickly and real closely here, you'll see that there's like this little arrow that's pointing in that direction. How would you fix this? Just like any object in your scene, you have the ability to move them using the move tool, and there is the rotate tool as well. So if you simply rotate this to have that little white arrow point in the direction that way, then you are all set. Now when we hit play, we spawn facing the right direction. Well, that is all for me today. I thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your company. You have a wonderful day.